But he didn't stop there. He said, wal furqan. He said he gave us something that is guidance for all people. On top of that, it is clear proof from within guidance. Allah will prove to you that this is His guidance, and He's guiding you, and He's guiding you, and He's guiding you. He's personally involved in your life. And then on top of all of that, He adds, subhanAllah, He says, wal furqan. And it's the distinction, the distinguisher, the separation. The separation of what? The separation of the word of human beings and the word of Allah. The separation of truth and falsehood. The separation of right and wrong. I'll tell you one story about Al-Furqan, one of my favorites nowadays. I'm heading to Kuwait tomorrow, inshaAllah ta'ala, where there's a friend of mine, Professor Raymond Farrin. I really like him. Professor Farrin graduated out of Georgetown University with a PhD in Shi'r Jahili, classical Arabic poetry. He's a white guy, with all due respect to the white guys in the audience. White guys study the weirdest things. They'll do a PhD in ant farming, and do a double PhD in this kind of plant, or that kind of cucumber. And then they come on the radio, yes, I studied this plant for a long time, and it's really quite interesting plant. I was like, why is this plant interesting to you? Nobody else in this universe cares, but you study I studied pigeons in Southern California. Why did you study pigeons in Southern California? So they do that. They pick some weird thing and they study it until they study it more than anybody else. The world's foremost expert on thumbs or something, So he decides, being a smart white guy, that he's going to study what? Arabic. Classical Arabic poetry. And he does his PhD out of Georgetown in Arabic poetry. And his thesis, get this, his thesis was, how did the poets organize their poetry? The qasida sometimes is very long, and his thesis was, how did they organize their poetry? There must be some system, some organization, some structure. And he presented his thesis and he defended it and he got his PhD. After his PhD, he became curious if the Arab poets had an order or a structure or a layout, then this Quran thing must have some structure too. To them, the Quran is nothing more than poetry. They don't believe in it as the word of Allah. They only believe in it as some body of literature that these Arabs love, these Muslims love. That's it. So he starts studying the structure of the ayat. How are the ayat organized inside a surah? And he did this for about a year. This is about 8 years ago. And he came to the conclusion that the Quran is so organized that it could not possibly be the effort of a human being. It has to be the word of God. He became Muslim without any da'wah ever given to him. He became Muslim. He is right now a professor of Arabic and Quranic studies and Shi'r Jahili, as a matter of fact, in Kuwait, at the American University of Kuwait. He's written a book on the structure of the Quran too. Okay? Raymond Farrin, look him up, he's fun. Raymond Farrin. Now why did I bring this up to you? By the way, it's pretty funny. When he teaches, يدرس الشعر للكويتيين. Right? So his students are Kuwaitis. 4th year students studying shi'r from a white guy from New Jersey. So one of his students said, هل نفد العرب نتعلم الشعر من أمريكي? Did all the Arabs disappear? We have to learn Arabic poetry from an American? And he says, ليس فيه مانع تتعلمون الإنجليزية من العرب. You guys learn English from the Arabs. It's okay. You can learn Arabic from an American. It's all good. But I told you this because when somebody deeply reflects on the Quran and studies the Quran, what becomes clear to them? This is separate from any effort made by a human being. This can only be the word of Allah. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Why don't they reflect deeply on the Quran? Had it been from someone other than Allah, they would have found a lot of contradiction. This can't be anything but. In other words, Ramadan is a time for you and me to restore our confidence in the Quran too. Ask questions about the Quran. How do you personally build a relationship with the Quran? How are you supposed to do that? I'm going to give you 2 tips. On how you're supposed to do that, and then I'll finish this ayah. The ayah it's an amazing ayah. We'll just finish this ayah in our talk.